Good. I'm trying a new web camera, and I think it's actually working. It was
Great.
probably not a good idea to start it on a premiere episode of our new podcast, but it's working. All right. So let's just get into this because the recording has started. And welcome everybody to the premiere episode of the Weekly Vibe, where I'm going to embarrass myself by showing the platforms that I vibe coded, and Andrew is going to try to pick them apart. Not try, he will pick them apart, and hopefully you guys can learn something from it. But before we get into that, I want to introduce people.
Oh, I think you're frozen.
I'm frozen.
Hold on, everyone. Yeah, you froze for a second. You're good now.
Okay. Tout.tv is a podcast network designed for debate and discussion, civil debate and discussion. If you're watching this, you would see the score inputs that you could give Andrew and me a score based on the quality of our information, the intensity with which we engage one another, and interaction. Do we let the other person talk? So that's Tout. I'm the founder and CEO of Tout.tv. Andrew Arrow, we just brought Andrew on a couple of weeks ago as our Chief Technology Officer. Andrew, why don't you go ahead and kind of give us a little bit of a rundown on your background and who you are and what you've done in the tech world.
Sure. So I was a computer science major back at 1996 in University of Pittsburgh. And so,
Right.
I moved out here to LA that same year when I graduated, 96, and I started working for tech companies. And, some of them were just tiny little startups that you've never heard of. Some of them became kind of big ones that, got acquired, very exciting. And then some of them are just, like giant corporations. But anyway, along the way, I learned tons and tons of skills. No AI back then. So
Yeah.
I learned it the hard way. And so it's kind of put me in an interesting position in that nowadays, my skills are all very relevant. I don't do coding anymore, but what I do is I watch the AI code and I tell it exactly what it did wrong and what we want right. And I can do it with really good pattern matching because everything it's doing, I've done a million times before myself. And that's because of a 30-year career, right? And so this
Yeah.
podcast will be really interesting because Greg is trying to learn to vibe code. And we'll get to that definition in a second of what that is, vibe code. But he doesn't have that 30-year experience, right? And he's coming from it fresh, right? And so it'll be really interesting if I can help him get the skills he needs, because he doesn't need to spend 30 years, And this is really interesting for new people, especially young kids learning computer science. What fundamentals do you really need to be really effective with AI? Because you can't have none. You need some, but you don't need to spend 30 years acquiring them like I did.
Yeah. Because let's just jump into it. The definition of vibe coding, as I understand it, what I've learned is how you use certain tools. We'll kind of talk about some of these tools in a minute, but you use certain tools or certain websites to create code without needing to know how to code. It's sort of, you're vibe coding. It kind of just is you're telling it what you want it to do, and it does it. And then you have to tell it a few times to do it differently because it didn't do it the way you wanted it to do the first time. Unless, of course, you're a software engineer and you know how to precisely prompt the platform to build what you want. That's my understanding of vibe code. It's basically coding. You can learn how to code without needing to learn how to code.
Exactly right. And I think that is the current definition that most people agree on of what vibe coding is. The nuance is some people, when they say the term, they say it like the derogatory term, meaning you don't know how to code at all. So all you're doing is vibe coding.
Yeah.
And there's a real distinction there between, expert software engineers. And by the way, the whole industry has changed this way. Like, all the people in tech, even expert coders like me that have been doing it their whole lives, they vibe code now. They use AI to do exactly what Greg just explained, but they're experts at it, right? And so that's the only difference that sometimes people have with that word. Sometimes they hear vibe coding and they think, oh, it's junk. But it's just the way it's done now, and there's different skill levels of how good you are with your prompts and how good you are at watching what it produces.
Yeah, I think, and we're going to get into what I'm going to show here in a second. It's gotten a lot better. The product that we're going to show in a few minutes was one of the first things that I ever did. I guess now we can kind of start talking about how do you do it? Where do you go? The first place I went was YouTube to learn how to do it. But there's lots of different platforms out there. The main platform that I use the most is probably Lovable.dev. I think it is Lovable. There's no E, Lovable.dev. And I use Bolt.new a little bit, but I felt like Lovable was progressing faster than Bolt. So I've kind of moved over to Lovable primarily. I tried to use this thing called Windsurf, which is a little more complex, which is probably more along the lines of something like that Andrew would use, where you keep all the code on your page or on your computer locally. It's way more complex. You're going through command terminal prompts and things like that. It was way over my head. I lost a bunch of code, so I stopped using Windsurf. So those are the platforms that I use. Andrew, talk about what you use and other platforms that I may have missed.
Sure. So being like an old school coder myself, I stay in terminal, right? And so because I stay in terminal, CLI is called Command Line Interface. I don't use some of the ones that are other developers who are not all developers stay in terminal, by the way. It's definitely kind of an old school thing that I picked up and I just love and I stay that way. Like, some professional coders today, for sure, they use something called Cursor, which has a whole IDE, and and a lot of them use Visual Studio with plugins for Cursor or Claude Code. But myself, I stay a CLI and I use Claude Code and I use Codex. Claude Code is from Anthropic and Codex is from OpenAI. And I'd say those are the two leading ones right now, especially in the CLI level.
All right. IDE, CLI, what do those things mean?
IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. And that just means the editor that you have up. So Lovable would be your IDE. Or if you're using Visual Studio, it's an IDE. Yeah. And CLI is Command Line Interface. It just means that instead of a GUI, which is graphical user interface, you're doing everything from command line, which is just typing.
Got it. Now, what you mentioned terminal. I think terminal is a Mac thing, right? What's the PC version of terminal? Is it the same thing?
The word terminal is not necessarily a Mac thing. Like, it's been around since the 70s, right? And it's like, and there are apps on Windows called terminal or terminal emulator, or the word emulator is often used there. On the Mac, the default terminator app that shipped with the Mac happens to be called terminal. Mm-hmm. So you have to open some terminal. It doesn't have to be the official Mac app terminal. Any terminal emulator you want to use. And people get really customized with this stuff. They want their special color. They want their special background. And every terminal app works slightly differently, right? So you have to find the one that works for you.
Got it. Okay. So let's kind of dig into, let me just show you, I'll share my screen, and which is a new feature of Tout.tv, by the way. We just added screen share on here. I'm going to share my, where is it? My Lovable screen. Stand by. And I think we're going to both start seeing it. We'll see it at the same time. So this was one of the first platforms that I vibe coded. It's called karaokecompanion.com. And I was working on some other things. I was learning some vibe coding, trying to build out some prototypes for Tout. And I just didn't know enough about it. But I needed to try to bring in AI into a platform. So I didn't know how to do that. And my wife and I were walking on the pier in Venice Beach, and there's a dude named John who has this sort of bike contraption karaoke machine. and I always remember seeing people trying to find, scrolling through this thing, what's the song they were going to sing? What song could they sing? And I thought, you know what? I have an idea for an app. What if we could build a platform that allows you to input a song that you think you can sing, or maybe you can sing, or you at least think you can sing, and then let AI analyze the range of that artist, and give you 20 to 30 other songs that you should be able to sing as well. So I came home and started vibe coding using Lovable, and this is what we created. Discover your perfect karaoke songs, turn your signature song into your signature list. And so this is the vibe coding. This is how it works on the left hand side. This is where you tell it what to do. Like if I wanted to change, this font from whatever it is here to something different, I could highlight this on. One second. I could highlight this using visual edits. I could just click on this. It looks like it's building the editor. And then I could just tell it, hey, change this font to whatever, and poof, it'll go in, write the code, and we'll change the font. But if I didn't want to use the visual editor, I could just tell it the whole thing. I could say, looks like it's refresh. Okay. I could just tell it what I want, like change the build my list button to, brown, and it would just do that. It just knows how to go in and do that. So you don't have to go in and like into the code. You can if you want. You can go up here into the actual code, and this has got all the code in the background. But I'm showing you all my code right now. That's probably not a smart thing to do. So anyway, so what Karaoke Companion does, I'm just going to go to the real site now. Like I said, I'm going to go to build a list, and you have to put in at least one artist, and you have to choose a male, female, or either male or female voice. So I'm just going to say male. You can choose obvious hits, not so obvious gems, or obscure cuts. I'm going to do obvious hits, and I'd like to sing Piano Man. Oh, that's the artist. 1 second, sorry. Billy Joel and Piano Man.
Great song choice, Greg. Props for picking Billy Joel.
And then I also like to rock out a little, oh my God, what's his name? Hank Williams Jr. So Hank Williams Jr. And I'm going to leave the song title blank. I'm just going to leave Hank in there as his name. And then you can put it in as many as you want. You can add more artists and stuff. The more you add, the better it will be. But then you just click on Get Your AI Powered list, and it's preparing your AI analysis. It's building your custom karaoke. And here in just a second, it's going to give me hopefully a list of a bunch of other songs that I should be able to sing. While it's thinking, Andrew, what do you think so far? While it's calculating this list.
So it's a fun little app. I used it last night when I was checking it out. Oh, interesting. So what'd you get there?
I don't know how it got the Bee Gees. I started a joke. I don't even know that song. Stand By Me, Ain't No Sunshine, there's Piano Man, Old Time Rock and Roll, Bad Moon Rising, Honky Tonk Man, Take It Easy. These all make sense. I could sing all these. The Bee Gees one, I don't know what that's doing in there. Suspicious Mind, okay. Elvis Presley, Friends in Low Places, Rhinestone Cowboy, Margaritaville. So it's giving me all these lists. So that, no more having to like dig through a book at I haven't been to a karaoke bar in a bazillion years, so they may already be doing this. I have no idea. I just wanted to build it because I thought it was fun. But and it's free. You don't even have to sign up. You don't have to give me your email address. You just have to go to karaokecompanion.com, type it in. You're at the karaoke bar, and you already have your list of songs that you can sing. And at the end of your list, you can share it with your friends. You can share it online. You can send it an email, copy and share it, text it to somebody, and that's it. That's Karaoke Companion.
Yeah, so it's fun. Totally. I used it last night, and I did Guns N' Roses for my artist. And I did, I think, Paradise City as the song. And I noticed the same thing you did, which is, the list was sort of right, but there was some that was confusing, right? And so there's bugs, right? You noticed it yourself, I think. You feel intuitively that there's a bug here, right?
The Bee Gees was a bug for sure.
So we have some evidence now we can go over. And so
okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So whoops. So Andrew, so the way we do this is I take the code and I put it up on GitHub. He then can take a look at all of the code on GitHub. And then I'm assuming, tell us your methodology for taking a look at the code.
Yeah, here, I'll just share my screen. Oops,
okay.
That was hide camera. I want to share screen. Entire screen. Okay, so.
Yeah, I'm noticing already the difference between vibe coder and software engineer.
So for me, Terminal feels warm and friendly. It's home. It's where I want to be. It's like the GUI is distracting to me. And so that's like the first thing I would do if I'm coaching someone that wants to go from where you are, Greg, into like getting better is go ahead and embrace Terminal. I know it's a big step. I know it seems awful, but you have to spend some time like you have to come into here and do settings, and you have to get your colors the way you want them. I love the green, on the black. It makes my eyes the way I like it. I like a nice big font, But anyway, once you spend time on the terminal, there's certain things that are just wonderful. Like, for example, you can type history, and it'll just show you all the last things you did. None of this is sensitive, or this is just stuff I was doing, right? Yeah. And so these are all the individual commands. And when I hit up arrow, you can go back through this list of history. Oh yeah, look at this one. There's a CD, tout karaoke champion, right? Because the way I even got this code in the first place is, you invited me to the GitHub, or you gave me, you added it to our repository in the tout, organization, and so then I was able to run git clone. That's what I typed, and then I just pasted. I pasted the URL that was from the GitHub UI, and that's how this repo came into existence. And then I had all the code, right?
Yeah.
And so the very first thing
what you're talking about right now is exactly why I would never go into terminal, because you've been doing this a long time. You know how all these. But for me, I'm just looking at a bunch of green text, and I don't know what to do. I wouldn't know what to type in. But on the vibe coding, I would just say, hey, show me the history of all of our whatever it is that you're looking for. That's the difference between vibe coding and real coding.
We're one step away from getting to where you're comfortable, which is I codex is what I would type, right? So I'm just going to type codex, right? And now I enter, and now we're into that same prompt you were talking about, right? Where I can just tell it what to do. Exactly. Now we're in the exact same place. And in fact, the very first thing I did when I got this repo is I said, can you give me a code review? And that's how we got these docs I'm about to show you. And this is how we're going to go into those bugs, right? Because it did all that, and we have it waiting for us, right? And so instead of subjecting you all to terminal, I'll switch back to the GitHub UI, because now we'll be able to see, if I come here to GitHub tout karaoke champion, and I've made some issues that we can go through. Okay.
Karaoke companion.
Karaoke companion, sorry, exactly.
Karaoke champion probably would have been a better name, but I didn't think that.
Okay, so if I go to this code review here, and don't worry, this is going to get better and easier to understand, because these next three, what I did is I took the complex stuff in here, and I asked AI, hey, can you explain this in much more detail for a junior level developer? And I even gave it the express instructions of, this junior developer is looking to get better at coding and wants to learn, exactly the kind of information you want, right? So let's go into this first one, because, this first one, when I read this, it made total sense to me. But I get the impression, Greg, when you read it, it just seems like nonsense, right?
I had no idea what it was talking about.
Yeah. Okay, and so the key part of this one is right here, where it says Taylor Swift becomes Taylor, artist Swift. So if you think about that just for a second, don't worry about programming and terminal, or just as a human, something's wrong there, right? Taylor Swift is her name, and look what happened. Yeah, right? That's a bug.
Interesting.
And then, for example, Queen is just one word. It becomes title Queen and artist unknown artist. It's missing, right?
Yeah.
And so this was labeled as incredibly high. This was the number one issue. It's like, hey, this is seriously wrong. This is okay. And so I had to, until I highlighted this and really said, hey, look at this carefully, this wouldn't have been obvious, right? So, but now let's go and look at how it explains that one, nice and gently, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So deep dive, artist only input breaks across the request pipeline. All right. This document explains a real bug, but the bigger goal is to teach a foundational engineering lesson. Here it is. If one part of the system thinks data is structured, another part turns it into a string, and a third part tries to reconstruct the structure later, the system will eventually lie to itself. Boy, that's it right there. But what a sentence, right? Because it had some things that might throw people off. Like it says structured, and it says string, right? And then it says reconstruct. And so what do those things mean? Well, it's talking about the stuff that we call JSON. You might have seen these little curly brackets. Yeah. And that's this is JSON right here. And so when we talk about, structured means we've defined, these little, open bracket, end bracket. This is beginning and ending what's called an object. And you're defining properties on this object. Title is a property. Artist is a property. It's now structured, right? And then title has a value. In this case, it's no value. It's just quote, means empty. It's not there. And then artist has a value. It's Queen, right? And so this is structured value. Now it says, back in this line, it says, when one part of the system thinks data is a structure and another part turns it into a string. Oh boy, that's the problem, right? Because if you take, this nice structured data and you say, oh, you know what? I'm going to ignore the fact that this is structure and I'm just going to treat it as if it was text. Then everything breaks. Then it no longer knows that this is an object. Then it no longer knows that title is a property. All it knows is it has this entire thing, and then you get the chaos that we saw. Okay, so
can I ask you a question? Yes, can I ask a question? So, is it possibly is this problem happening because some artists are bands, meaning a one word name, as opposed to a solo artist who has a first name or a last name, or maybe even a solo artist that has a first name or only one name, like Beyonce? Or is that part of the problem that that the logic
Exactly.
was having a problem? Okay.
Like Taylor Swift is 2 words exactly. You
Yeah.
saw what it did to Taylor Swift, right? So,
Yeah.
but it's more. I think it's more nuanced than that. That's part of it. But let's read on. Let's see exactly what's
Okay.
going on here. Okay, it says the user can submit an artist only, a song title plus artist,
Okay.
or multiple rows of either. But the request
Right.
pipeline does not preserve the meaning consistently. The form
Mm.
collects structured data like title artist. The result page converts that data into a plain string. AI analysis tries to guess the structure back from the string. The edge function validates the final string as if title must always be non-empty. Okay.
I'm
So
starting to understand what's going on there.
yeah, it's hard to understand for me too. I mean, I get it at a high level, but I'm still not. I don't have my aha moment yet, right?
Yeah.
But I think the aha moment is coming, right? Okay. So
Okay.
all right. Structured data is better than free-form strings. An object like title has clear meaning. We've already been through this. We get this part, okay. A lossy transformation is dangerous. That word lossy is another buzzword, right? Just means information's being lost. You're losing something. If you convert this structured data into a form that cannot preserve the meaning, you'll never recover. Okay, we get that. Contract must match across layers. Here's a complex thing. Okay, front-end validation, in-memory types, API payloads, back-end validation, prompt building. Well, you have lots of this app actually. That's a lot. If you think about what this app is doing, all those things happen when you submit, your title and your artist, but they all need to agree. Okay, and validation is documentation that executes. Comments can say title optional, but if runtime validation says title required, then you have a problem. All right. Yes, we live in these two different worlds. Is title optional or is title required?
Right.
All right. All right. So step one, the UI analysis, artist only. The label says song title optional, artist star meaning required. Right. Okay. This is a product promise to the user. And now here it is giving you actual links to code, which if you're vibing, often you don't even, this doesn't look familiar and you're like song input form.tsx. What is, because definitely when I'm vibing, sometimes I never look at the code.
Yeah.
But like I was saying from this 30 of experience, boy, did I spend a lot of time looking at code. So every once in a while, I will just be like, oh, that's curious. I wonder what's in there, and I'll open it. And so getting comfortable every once in a while, it is correct to ignore the code a lot when you're vibing, but especially if you're trying to get better and learn. Every once in a while, you really want to look at the files. You really do want to be like, oh, okay.
I do that a lot, and what I've found is what I also do is I bounce things off between ChatGPT and Lovable. And I do go in and look at the code, and I would tell you I could not sit down and like write code. And look, I failed statistics in college the first time I took it, right? So I'm not a math guy, but the more you start to look at it, the more it starts to stop looking like Chinese characters, and actually starts looking like something, and you can kind of start to understand how all this stuff is structured. So I've been doing this maybe about a year. I think I did Karaoke Companion maybe about a year ago, maybe a little bit less. But I've been able to, now I can look at it. I can't diagnose if there's a problem or not, but I can kind of get a sense of what's going on just from going in and looking at the code. So I think what you're saying is it makes a lot of sense.
Sweet. Okay, so let's move on to, we're not going to open this file right here, but let's look at it saying. It's saying only require one artist. Song titles are optional. Okay, so it's saying of all the songs, filter down to just this artist, valid songs. This means the form treats these as valid. You can say Queen, you can say Taylor Swift, you can say Bohemian Rhapsody Queen. These are all valid. Okay, according to the form, but they're not valid later on, right? It also stores empty titles as null. Null is another big computer science word. What is null, actually? It's also sometimes called nil, N-I-L, instead of null.
Yeah.
And it's a little different than this. You see how title here is quote, quote, which is an empty string? Null and nil are different. They mean, kind of like a void, kind of like it doesn't even exist. It's like, and it's a hard concept really to get your head around till you use it a lot more. But you have to understand that it's, it means nothing. It means empty. But it means empty in a very different way than quote, quote means.
Huh. Okay.
We'll get, let's not get, there's a whole another podcast on null. All right. So at the form layer, this system clearly supports artist-only input, optional title. Okay. The structured data is stored correctly in session storage. Another file, great. The form writes the user input like this. It says, let's store input songs as JSON stringify. Here's where we go. So what does stringify mean for JSON? That's a weird looking word if you don't know the word string to begin with. 'Cause, I mean, string in computer science, if this is one of the fundamentals that you got to eventually get. It just means a sequence of characters. It's like a word,
Yeah.
could be a sentence, just and it usually have quotes around it. If it's but it could be a variable too. A variable can hold a string value, then it won't have quotes. But anyway, stringify means take something that is already JSON, take one of these things, right, and convert it into an actual string. Like, boy, is this a hard concept to explain to someone that's looking at this, because this looks like a sequence of characters, right? But this
Yeah.
is not, a string, because it's structured and it's been parsed. So if I just open like an empty browser window here and just have a little text area to work in, this is a string, right? It's string, and it has quotes inside of it too, right? But I could put quotes around it. Okay, now I'm really saying this is a string, right? Okay, and so this is the whole idea of what stringify means. Stringify means take something that is actually, that structured object, and turn it into literally these characters. And that's what
Got it.
stringifying does. Okay, and
Okay.
that's a great way to store JSON, like in a database or something. Sometimes you have to, call stringify. You have to say it's called serialization. Okay. But what you've done now is you've made it a string, right? And if someone else wants it structured, they have to parse it again. They have to take that JSON and then turn it into an object. It's called hydration or unserialization, or the other terms are marshal and unmarshal. But it's all the same concept. Okay. Because JSON preserves the structure and the user entered that is exact meaning, still available later. Okay, so so if we have, this is the setup basically. We've put this in a session store. But I think later we're going to see how we take it out and it gets thrown away. Here it comes. Okay. The structured object are flattened into a single string. So it's saying parse song. Oh boy, this is another one. Map. You might have no idea what map does. And still to this day, I have trouble with map, because it was one of those ones that took me a long time to learn. So every time I see map, I have to do all these hoops in my brain of like, oh, it's this, it's this, it's this. It just kind of means collect. It means you're going to loop through here and you're going to take only certain ones that match something. And so this is a long, complicated thing, but eventually it gets down to join, which means take all those things and make it one big string.
I'm with you.
This is the most important mistake in the pipeline. Why this is bad. The object had named fields. The string does not. There is no reliable delimiter between the artist and the title. Empty titles create malformed strings. Ooh, multi-word artists become ambiguous. Examples. Here we go again with Queen. Effectively trim becomes Queen. Taylor Swift effectively becomes Taylor Swift. Bohemian Rhapsody Queen. Okay, so notice what disappeared. Which part was the title? Which part was the artist? Whether the title was empty on purpose. This is called a lossy conversion. The app had the exact data and replaced it with a guessable string. Why lossy conversion matters? A junior developer should learn this rule. Never serialize structured input in an ambiguous format unless you absolutely have to. This is good. This is bad. Why the second one is bad? Because the later code must guess, what is Queen? I'm not really sure. Strings are not evil. Strings are only safe when the format is explicit and stable. For example, oh yes, here's a string where you're actually saying title equals this, artist equals that. But this is not as desirable as this. JSON is the agreed upon standard on the internet. Yeah, JSON is just great, right? Okay. So then we try to reverse engineer the string. This code accepts either a string or a list of input songs. That flexibility looks convenient, but it created risks. When the input is a string, the code tries to parse it back into objects. So we're trying to parse it. Okay, we're doing all this. This is a heuristic parser. Oh, yes. A heuristic parser is a best effort rule, not a guaranteed truth. So basically, you have all this logic that's being like, well, maybe it's this one, maybe it's that one. This is all, this is called bad code smell. When you see this go by, when the LLM produced this, this is a time you're supposed to hit escape and you're supposed to, whoa, 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 why are you doing all this? This is not necessary. You should just be parsing JSON. I mean, I'm not joking when I say that this literally has happened to me. Where, this is the exact kind of thing where I'll hit escape and I'll notice something like this and I'll kind of yell at the AI. I'll be like, whoa, whoa, because I'll be 100% sure it's made a mistake. You just kind of know looking at this, like, wait a minute, this is wrong. This is too complicated, not necessary, and because this whole thing should be replaced with just JSON.parse.
Interesting. All right.
Heuristics are useful when you truly have a messy human input, but they are much less acceptable when your own code creates the mess. This code is not parsing a user type sentence like, I mean, sometimes you wouldn't recommend this, but sometimes if you're trying to parse something someone wrote, you would do something very complicated like this. But now in the days of LLMs, you just send this to the LLM. In the old days, you might try to actually parse this yourself. Right? Okay. Is it parsing a string generated by our own app? That means we should not need heuristics at all. Okay, let me pause
Yeah.
here. Is this all making sense?
It is. I think it's saying. Let me ask a couple of questions though, because I think I understand. Everything makes sense in terms of what the problem is, but why did it write bad code? How could I have prompted it in a way that would have avoided this problem? I don't know if you can even. I don't even know if that's a fair question. I'm not sure if you can answer that without going back and looking at what I prompted or what the prompt said. But
Yeah,
how did
it's
how
funny
did
you
it
say
make
that.
these
I was just
mistakes?
going to say, let me. I wish you had checked in all the prompts, and that's actually becoming a big industry, a big thing in the industry. Where I've noticed is like, it used to be that you just check in the code, and that's all you need because a human wrote the code. Nowadays, when I look at someone else's code or a pull request in GitHub, I'm kind of curious to see like, well, how did you show me the prompts, right? That's like
Yeah.
the other half of the equation missing now, right? So yeah, to answer that question, well, I did a great review of the code, and then I asked the AI, that's how I made this doc, right? But the thing missing is the review of your prompts. So maybe in Lovable you still have them, and if you want to add them to the repo, we could do that, in the next episode actually.
I don't know how you do that.
Oh, I
I
think
mean,
I saw it on your screen when you pulled up
is there a way to
Lovable. I think
download all of them?
I'll research it and figure it out for you. But there's got to
Okay.
be a way. If we see
Yeah.
them, we can get them somehow. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Okay.
Oh, but your other question was why did why did it do this? It could be a couple things. It depends on the model you're using.
Yeah.
So when you're like back in my terminal, when I was in here, if you notice when I go into Codex, it says down here GPT 5.4 extra high.
Mm,
So this model would not have made that mistake,
got
right?
it.
But like depends on the model you're using, like and the models have different prices, right? And so yeah,
Yep.
you could have been on a much weaker model, and
I'm sure it was because
that's
this was literally like a year ago. This is probably not even a GPT-5. I'm sure it was on something completely different. But because I have noticed Lovable is way better now than it was when I was building this. I mean, sometimes I find it really interesting that sometimes it does difficult pretty well. Sometimes it does it easy and it doesn't do it so well. It takes forever to get like just a button to change the color or something like that. I mean, it's really odd how sometimes little changes that you think would be easy end up becoming very difficult.
Okay. Any other questions? Do we keep going, or what do you want?
Yeah, let's keep
Okay.
going.
Case A, the artist only input with a one-word artist, input in the form of just queen, flattened into queen, parsed with it becomes words queen, title queen, artist unknown. Boy, is that wrong. Right? So
Yeah.
the system silently changed the meaning from artist queen to artist unknown title queen. This is not a small formatting issue. This is a semantic corruption bug.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Artist with only.
I'm amazed that it
Go ahead.
works as well as it does.
That's funny. Bee Gees was the only thing you noticed that was
Yeah.
wrong, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It still works pretty well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Case B, artist only input with a multi-word artist. Taylor Swift, flattened to Taylor Swift. Words, Taylor Swift. The heuristic produces title Taylor, artist Swift.
Interesting.
Now the
Yeah.
system believes the user asked about a song called Taylor and an artist called Swift. That is much worse than missing data. It is wrong data. That still looks
Yeah.
valid.
Yeah.
Case C, title and artist without explicit separator. Bohemian Rhapsody, artist, you get the full string. So these are three different cases, right? And they all
Yeah,
result in
no, I
slightly
get it.
different
Yeah,
wrong
yeah.
things. Yeah, okay. Oh, there's more cases. Case D, title and artist, but the artist has multiple words. Okay, it goes on and on. All these different cases. Multiple joined by commas. Okay. And step 5, the edge function expects a stricter contract than the UI promises. Okay,
Can you explain what an edge function is?
Oh, right. So edge function simply means you don't have your own droplet, basically. You don't have your own server. You're just calling on AWS. There's something called they call them lambdas. In Lovable or wherever you have this deployed, the edge functions is another word for lambda, and it basically just means you're renting a droplet, a tiny fraction of a droplet for as long as it takes to run just this one function.
Yeah. No. For people who may not know what a droplet is, because you're vibe coding, a droplet is just a little bit of a space on a server somewhere to do some kind of calculate or some kind of calculation. I'm not sure if that's the right word, or some kind of process. Is that right?
Yeah, the word droplet I use just because you and I are so familiar with it,
Yeah.
because it's DigitalOcean. But every cloud provider has a different word for it. But the generic word is VM, a virtual machine.
Got it.
So
Okay.
yeah, exactly. You're renting a virtual machine which has some amount of RAM, some amount of CPU, some these stats about it, and then the bare minimum you could rent of a VM it's still a pretty big thing compared to this tiny little edge function. So yeah,
Right.
it's much cheaper to run this function just once than it is to rent an entire VM. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
The request validator says song title cannot be empty. This means the back end contract is every song must have a non-empty title. Every song must have a non-empty artist. Oh, that's a very different contract than what the front end said. If you recall,
Yeah.
remember the front end
Yep.
optional, right? Okay.
Yep.
But the front end contract, yeah, title, optional, artist required. Okay. These contracts contradict each other. This is not just a front end bug or a back end bug. It is a contract mismatch between the layers. Yeah, that's absolutely huge. That word contract in business, of course, the contract is everything, right? But it's the same between front end and back end. You have to agree. Yeah. Okay. Even more interesting, the promise generator already knows titles can be empty. This code does this. It says song description. It's looking for a song title and a subtitle. By the way, the word trim just means if there's spaces on the beginning or end, get rid of them. So it's just saying, is this an empty string basically, or and is it even if it's got characters on the end, it looks like it. And if so, return it like this, return it like this. This is extremely important. It shows that part of the backend logic already understands intended feature. If the title exists, use it. The title is empty, treat it as an artist only. So the system has three different beliefs at the same time. The UI believes that the title is optional. The prompt generator believes the title may be empty, and that's meaningful. And the validator believes the title must be non-empty. When the different layers hold different beliefs about the fields, bugs are almost always guaranteed. What makes this bug dangerous? It's not just a validation form problem. It's dangerous for three separate reasons. Silent corruption is worse than loud failure. Oh yeah, you didn't even notice this until it was pointed out, right? Like you knew something was off with the images, but you didn't know what, right? Yeah, it was silent, right? Yeah. It breaks the product trust. Ooh. So if the UI says this and the artist required, but it's not getting that, the users are going to be upset. Well, that's yet to be determined. Maybe some users will like the product just as it is. Yeah. But the point of this is to learn how to do it right? And so, let's just assume that users are upset by this, right? Yeah. It makes AI quality look worse than it is. If the AI receives bad seed data, the AI quality drops. This can lead to
that means if the vibe coder doesn't know what he's doing, the AI output can be bad. It's the human's fault. I take full responsibility. That's awesome.
Okay, so then root cause in one sentence. The root cause is that the system does not have one stable shared definition of what an input song is. A better mental model for junior developers when we're asking these three questions. What is the exact shape? Oh, that word shape is used a lot too. The shape of the data. Yeah. Is that shape preserved?
Let me ask, are these things that that we could be that I can incorporate into a prompt? Are these things that I should ask the AI? Is that something that's useful?
Oh yeah. In fact, if I were you and you're still working on the same code base, you go back to Karaoke Champion. I would copy and paste all of this and put it into your prompt and just say, "Here's what I've learned." And there's actually this great file you can put in that's really important. Like if you
go ahead. I was going to say, don't go out of where you were. Maybe you didn't, but can you copy those and paste those into the evidence board so people can steal those questions?
Totally. Except this GitHub repo is private, right? So those links would not be accessible by those people. But we can eventually.
No. I'm not saying the repo. I'm just saying those 5 or 6 questions that were down there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Down there,
just copy and paste those and put those paste those in the evidence board so people can see what questions to ask.
So let me stop sharing my screen for a second here because we're going to get infinity.
Yeah.
Okay. So in evidence, I'll come in here and we'll say, there you go. Neat.
Perfect. There it is. All right. Awesome. So folks, that's how the evidence board works, even though you're not watching this live. Okay. Perfect. Now I can have them and I can go throw them into Lovable and have it evaluate itself.
What I was about to show, and I don't
go back. You go back. Okay. All right.
I mean, I could do it later. I just wanted to mention that the file, there's a special file for both Claude Code and for OpenAI. In Claude Code, it's called claude.md. In OpenAI, it's called agents.md. And it's a file that I have in every repo I work in that has clear instructions for what to do in this repo. So if you take all that stuff and you put it in one of those files, and you have to look at how to do it on Lovable or the one you're using, right? But there's a way that every time you enter, it's that you have all this information already baked into your prompt. And so maybe you'll get more of these too. And so if you keep adding those, and the limit's pretty big, like you can add quite a bit of them, then it has all that knowledge. Every single time you ask it to do something, it might go, hey, wait a minute, remember that time the title was optional? And it'll learn.
So how did you walk me through the process of, because I don't always push the stuff to GitHub. I didn't. I mean, until you and I started working together, I was petrified of GitHub. And how do you take take this code, put it into GitHub, which we did, but then how are you querying all of that code to have it go review to give you this report? I would think
Oh,
that
okay.
I would think that Lovable and all these platforms would have that function in it, like, hey, review the code and tell me where the mistakes are. Maybe it does, and I just haven't added it. I just haven't asked it to do that.
I'm not a Lovable expert. I've actually
Yeah, yeah,
never used, I've heard of it and I've seen people use it. I just don't
yeah.
know. You could try that, but here, I'll just show you the way I do it. And it involves the terminal, of course. Let me share my screen again. Share screen. Okay, so back into this repo, when I first got access to the repo, the very first thing I do is I come into this code, and this looks complicated, and you have to
Yep.
know if you want SSH or HTTPS. But once you get used to it, it's one click. Now I have the URL, right? And
Mm.
then since that URL is on my clipboard, then I come back to this terminal here, and all I'm going to type is git clone, and I paste it, right? Now, I could just hit return here, and it would make a new directory, and it would name the directory Karaoke Champion, because it takes the name of the repository, right?
Companion.
Okay, I'm sorry, I say that every time, I'm sorry. Karaoke Companion. Okay, but I already have in this directory, if you look at, there already is a directory called, because I've done this before, right? And
Yeah.
so this is a very common pattern, and what I always do is I just put a 2 on the end, right? And so now I'm going to say clone, and I'm going to put in a different directory called Karaoke Champion 2. Okay, now
Companion.
CDs, I can't. I literally tried to say it right, and I said it wrong again. Karaoke Companion.
Yeah. Totally. Karaoke Champion's a better name, clearly.
Okay. CD stands for change directory, and this is a terminal thing you just eventually have to learn. If you
Yep.
notice right now, it says I'm in this thing called tilde tout. That's my current directory, right? And so if
Right.
I do CD and I type KAR and hit tab, it'll do something called autocomplete. That's a part of terminal that it really helps a lot. You don't have to type every
Mm.
letter. Often you just hit one letter and it completes it for you. And I'll put a 2 on the end. And now I'm in that directory, right?
Got
Okay,
it.
and now if I type ls, there's all the files. And before we were talking about go look at some of the files and we mentioned them. I'm kind of curious. Well, where are all the TSX files? And so this is a very common terminal line. I'm saying find period just means this directory. And this vertical bar is the most powerful operator in all of CLI. It's been around
Mm.
since the 1970s. And it's just amazing the way it allows you to send information from one program to another. And it's used throughout terminal. And it's called a pipe. And so I'm saying find period. And then I'm saying pipe, send this to this other program called grep, also been around since the 70s. And I'm saying, show me only the ones that match TSX, which is the
Mm.
extension of all your files, which is
Yep.
TypeScript, right? And so I hit return, and here's all the files. And so this is a lot better than just typing ls, because with ls, I'm only seeing what's in this top level directory, and all your files are buried under source. And if I
Yeah.
were to try to find them in source, I have to know the directory structure, which is also useful. I can start here and go, oh, okay, you've got components, interesting. Or I can go, oh, you know what? I kind of want to look at pages, okay? But, just to get an overview, I would do this first, just to see all the files. Oh, here's all the files. Okay, interesting. But then to answer your question of what did I do first, I just simply went into Codex. Oh, this is an important one, saying, hey, do you trust this code before you enter? Because when you're when you're working with Claude Code and Codex, often you have it do things for you automatically, and some of those actions depends on what it's doing, might be not what you want, especially if you don't trust this code. Like
Yeah.
you sent it to me and I trust you, but yeah, I know maybe you got some of this code from somewhere else and didn't. So I wanted to trust but verify, right? And whenever I get a
Yeah.
new piece of code, I say yes here, but I don't do anything yet. The very first thing I do is I say, can you please scan this code base for any suspicious hidden characters or weird LLM instructions? Because that's one of the attack vectors is inside files. Even if you look at them with your human eye, there are these things called hidden characters, which it sounds weird. It sounds like invisible ink or something from a spy novel, but there actually are characters in there that are the same as ABC went to. They're literally the same, but they just are using a different storage mechanism. So us humans, they don't render. It's been around in computers from the beginning. It's just no one's ever used them before. But someone found this clever trick of, well, I'll just say what I want to say in this not used hidden alphabet. But the LLMs don't consider it hidden. When they see that text, they treat it. So people will put in repos like dangerous instructions, and you'll never know that they're in there until you start doing stuff, and then all of a sudden, you might never know. It might put backdoors in your code that you don't get. So anyway, that's the very first thing I did is I ran that, and it gave you a clean bill of health. And sometimes it's not even your fault in that you didn't put the code in there. Sometimes you're using a library, and that or you're linking to something, and that had it in there. Anyway, so then after that was done, then I said, I'm new to this repo. Can you give me an overview and do a code review? Store the results in code-review.md. And then,
That's crazy.
That's what led me to get that very first document that we saw back in, over here in this first issue, this code review.
Yeah.
That's exactly where this came from, right? And this, when you first saw this was confusing, right? This was like, I have no, this is gibberish, right? But now you understand that. Now this makes way more sense. Now this is like, oh, yeah.
Because it was talking a lot of cache issues and things like that.
How long is this podcast? Are we going 4 hours?
Oh, no.
We could do the next one if you want.
Oh, so this whole thing was just the first mistake.
That was the first one. Yeah.
Oh, wow! And how many are there total?
There are 3 top ones that I actually did deep dives for, but there are 5 in total, and that's just what it found in this first pass. But yeah, if you come back to issues, we did this first one. This is the cache one, and there's 2 cache ones actually. Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go into there. I'm gonna grab that report, and
here I'll stop sharing. And maybe we can just talk, or you can share. Yeah, whatever you want.
We'll just talk. I'll kind of talk about what I'm gonna do next. I'm gonna take that report and I'm gonna copy it, and I'm gonna paste it into ChatGPT and tell it what I'm doing, and say, hey, take this report and give me a prompt that's gonna fix all these problems.
Yeah, perfect.
And it will give me a prompt, and I'll copy and paste it in Lovable and see if it works. Maybe next week I'll let folks know if that actually worked or not. Man, you really opened my eyes a lot. Now granted, I've got more things that we're going to show you in other weeks that have gotten a lot better, but there are some things that aren't working 100% perfectly on some of these. So it'll be very interesting to see if we can make these better. Karaoke Companion is by far the most basic. The one we'll talk about next week will be really good for sports fans. And I'll just leave a tease at that. There were a couple little glitchy things that I think I fixed, but it's so big I haven't tested everything. I've only tested parts of it that I use myself. So just kind of to wrap this up, I got into vibe coding because, with AI, I just kind of heard about it and I started dabbling with it. And then I started just kind of fixing problems in my own life. Like, not Karaoke Companion wasn't a problem, but learning how to get AI integrated into a website, that was really the reason why I wanted to build Karaoke Companion. But the ones that we talk about in the next few weeks are all problems that I had, and I looked at it and said, or maybe not all the problems, some of them were just an opportunity. But here was a problem in my life. I'll tease the next one. It's a sports calendar. So I like to watch a bunch of different sporting events. I had like 5 or 6 different pages, all with that particular team, and when is this next game, and when is it? What time is the game? What channel is it on? It was just a pain in the neck to try to, and then you have to go back and refresh the pages, and it was a pain in the neck. So I decided that I was going to build. We'll talk about it next week. I'm going to tease it right now, but decided to build a platform that allows me to customize all the sports teams that I'm interested in. It creates a custom calendar for me. They have one place, and it's always updated, and there's more to it than that. But that's kind of how I approach the whole vibe coding thing. Is I just want to solve a problem in my own life, and if anybody else wants to use it, I'll slap some ads on there and see what happens. But I think it's a good time to stop. We're 2 minutes away from the NCAA basketball game from starting, so probably a good time to stop. I do want to talk a little bit real quick about new features on Tout.tv. We now have scheduling, thanks to Andrew. You can go in and you can schedule a podcast, which is like what we did with this. This is scheduled every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. We're going to have this podcast. and it's on there. And if you're interested, if you're following me or you're following Andrew or you're interested in vibe coding, that will automatically pop up on your calendar, which is called My Calendar. There's also a Tout Complete calendar. We also introduced a new thing called the Pickup Room, where if you don't have somebody to have a conversation with, you could go in there and say, hey, here I am. I'm going to talk about this topic. This is what I think about this topic. If you want to debate me, if you want to debate or just have a conversation about something, you could do that. People who are interested in that will find you, click, you connect, and you find somebody to have a conversation with. So we're using a lot of great mechanisms to bring people together to have conversations, which is the whole point of Tout.tv, civil digital discourse. And we got some other little features in there like customized thumbnails and some other little things we'll talk about later. All right. Andrew, this is fun, man. I learned a lot. I'm glad. Hopefully we didn't start too far along. Maybe we need to have like a vibe coding 101 kind of a thing, like best practices and how to use ChatGPT to kind of play it off each other. But I'm sure we'll evolve this as we go. But dude, I'm glad you're on the team. You've done a lot of amazing things, and it's only going to get better. So
totally sweet. All right. Until next time.
Any parting words of wisdom?
Always be prompting.
Always be prompting. Exactly. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks.